We've got a really interesting guest for you guys right now. Joining me now is Laurie Luhn. She is suing Fox News and actually a couple other folks, and has a harrowing story about the guy who used to run Fox News, Roger Ailes. Laurie, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start this way. Who's named in your lawsuit? Who are the folks you're suing?
Well, Suzanne Scott, who's CEO of Fox News, and I'm suing Fox News. And then there's a 8-episode miniseries coming out next month on Showtime, and I'm suing Showtime because they stole my life, they monetized my tragedy, and they haven't compensated me in any way or were interested in bringing me on as a consultant or paying me for ripping off my life. And Gabriel Sherman, who coerced me into an interview, printed lies and didn't correct the lies, and then he sold the story to Showtime, and that's what's coming out, and it's going to be garbage. They don't know the story. I'm going to have to write my own book to get my story out because there's so much defamation and lies.
So of course I haven't seen this series and I don't know the story, so I don't know who's right or wrong about that. But Laurie, you're here, so I want to get your side of the story. So first though, let's go back to what happened in the first place for people to understand why you had the issues with Roger Ailes to begin with. So how did you first come across Roger Ailes?
About 30 years ago, I was a staffer on George Bush for president. George H.W. Bush was vice president running for president, and Roger Ailes was his media advisor, and I met him a couple of times just passing in the hallway, and that was my first experience with him. But I was real excited about the work that he had done, and that's what I was interested in after working on that campaign. And I found myself a couple of years after Bush had been elected jobless, and I had a meeting, an interview with Roger Ailes, and shortly after he pretty much blackmailed me and photographed me and compromising photographs. I went for an interview, and that's kind of what went on for many years, was that he held this over my head and said that he used it as an insurance policy that I would be loyal to him. And this was Roger Ailes' big thing, is loyalty.
Yeah, well, a lot of thugs and criminals focus on loyalty because they don't want to be turned in for all the things that they've done wrong, including this president. But so Roger Ailes went on to run Fox News. He helped Murdoch start it, and he ran it for, until he was finally deposed because of all the sexual harassment charges that were brought out against him, and certainly proved enough to warrant a lot of settlements on the part of Fox News. And so I don't think anyone outside of a couple of Fox News hosts now doubts that Roger Ailes did those things. So, but he worked for a lot of Republican presidents, including Richard Nixon and George H.W. Bush on their campaigns. So when you guys worked together, obviously you were a conservative, you were working on George H.W. Bush's campaign. Is that fair?
Well, the world was a pretty different place in 1988. You have really young viewers, I know, and just think what things were like in '88. And George H.W. Bush was a very different candidate. He was not near the. As a matter of fact, he was at one time pro-choice. He wasn't.
That's right. No,
he wasn't the super conservative.
No, he wasn't. And in fact, I know because I was a Republican back then, and I supported George H.W. Bush. And the political spectrum has completely shifted in Washington, and the Republican Party has become much more conservative, et cetera. So, but you guys worked on the same campaign. But Roger Ailes didn't do anything wrong with you during the campaign.
No, I didn't know him, and that's one of the things that I feel like I've been lied about for so much, about things that never happened. You can't speak to things that never happened. I didn't even know him during the campaign, other than to say hello in the hallway. And I did, as I said, I met him a couple of years after.
So what kind of a job were you looking for at that point with Roger Ailes when you went to go interview with him?
I had just worked on a campaign down in Florida, and I just took my resume. He had Ailes Communications at the time, and so he had a media firm out in Alexandria, and I was just trying to get my foot in the door.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so what happened during the interview?
Roger Ailes is all about sizing people up pretty fast and kind of seizing on their, at least with me and with a lot of people, and probably men and women, see their insecurities and figuring out their vulnerabilities pretty fast. He asked me a lot of personal questions about my mother, my family life.
That's
very
unusual
strange for an interview. I'd never been in a situation like that, but that's kind of how he sizes people up. And really, fast forward to the summer of '96 when Mr. Murdoch was launching, or early '96, launching Fox News. That's when I finally did go to work officially for Fox and for Roger with Tony Snow and Fox News Sunday during the launch of Fox News Channel, and I was real excited about that. And I had a good experience, but at least working with Tony Snow and doing the work that we did, booking guests and
so when did Roger Ailes first come on to you?
Well, from the beginning when I first met him, as I said, he said that these were his insurance policy, these compromising photographs and videotapes
you two together
that he had taken of me. And he always reminded me of that. Roger Ailes was my mentor, my boss, and my torturer. And I really am a victim of Stockholm Syndrome. He still lives inside my head. And if he were here today, he would probably advise me to fight back. You know, it's complicated because of the fact that he was both my mentor and my boss. He had really high standards, and I was jumping through hoops trying to prove myself, you know, as a booker in Washington and then doing events for him. It was a very difficult situation, and it's complicated. And that's what people don't understand, that someone can be all of these things at the same time. You're expected to show up for work and not talk about your experience. I mean, I kept it bottled inside for years. I didn't ever tell anybody, and he threatened me. He threatened me for years that I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't tell a psychiatrist that I was seeing in Washington. He said, absolutely not, that I was to tell no one. And so that's part of my story of why it was so hard and why I'm suing Suzanne Scott, because she's one of his chief enablers, and she has lied about me and this whole experience. I mean, Roger, even when I was under duress and they got me to sign something, a separation agreement, he never denied the sexual abuse. His signature is on my separation agreement, but Suzanne Scott has been nothing but hostile to me and lied about, claiming that she didn't know about any sexual abuse in Roger Ailes' office, which is a total lie. She was.
Do you think everybody at Fox News knew?
Well, that's why Suzanne is going to have a very rude awakening when we go to court, when we start calling hundreds of witnesses that will be able to call her a complete liar, because she was his chief enabler. People on the second floor, which was what the Power Center, I believe that they knew, and they certainly knew in his inner circle. And I don't know if you remember, there was a lawsuit against Bill O'Reilly, Andrea Macris.
Of course, yeah.
And I think the climate toward me really changed after the Andrea Macris situation, because Roger's inner circle knew that he was vulnerable, and what are they going to do about me? And they that's when they began to, I think that they had a whole strategy to smear me and discredit me as a witness, as a future witness. And that's what went on with a lot of gaslighting, a lot of harassment, a lot of malicious gossip and smears. But I was really terrorized the last few years I was at Fox, and it only got increasingly worse as time went on. And you say, did people know? Absolutely. I mean, media relations, they absolutely knew. I mean, with Suzanne and
well, you know,
other members of his inner circle.
When you say they knew, did they know that there was some relationship going on?
I think people never really understood, and that's another thing that was always insulting to me, and why I guess I have to write a book to set the record straight. I was a victim of mind control, brainwash, Stockholm syndrome. He used sexual abuse as a psychological tactic to control and brainwash me. And I have no idea what other people's experiences were, but I haven't heard from, you know, when these stories came out, when Gretchen Carlson sued, I haven't heard anything close to what I went through. And so that's why I can't believe that Showtime has monetized my tragedy and blown me off. And I think that your viewers should completely boycott this upcoming Showtime series that's garbage, because there's no way they know the truth.
Okay, just real quick, what do you think that Showtime got wrong? What do they say and that you think didn't happen?
Well, for one thing, they made me, they have an actress playing the part of me. So they've already taken my life without even consulting me or bothering to find out what my story was or talking to me directly or compensating me in any way. And they've been really nasty, and their leadership at Showtime has been completely gutless and indecent. And I certainly will be boycotting it, and I think, you know, what they've done is pretty criminal.
So one last thing, because I know it's a complicated story, it's a long story. I wish we had more time to do it justice. And I know that everybody's got a slightly different point of view on it, and I'm sure Gabriel Sherman would say something different, Showtime would, and certainly Fox News is. Now, I'm not a big fan of Fox News, so I've seen them lie about everything else. So I'd be surprised if they were the ones that were being honest here. But let's talk about that last question that I had for you. So if the folks at Fox News thought it was a relationship and not sexual harassment, okay, that would be, I suppose, the most positive light for them, right? So if they know it's sexual harassment and they're covering it up, it's terrible. It's hideous, right? If they think it's a relationship, why would they then be concerned about you? Do you see what I'm saying?
But it wasn't. It wasn't, and there quid pro quo, and that's in my lawsuit. You know, I was all excited, and I guess 2004 I got a promotion, and I was in Roger's office, and he was telling me about this promotion and how I'd report to Bill Shine in New York. And then he said, oh, and I need for you to go over to the DoubleTree and thank me for your promotion. So there was quid pro quo, and there's proof of it. And I mean, there's really nothing. As I said, he didn't deny. So
no, Laurie, I don't doubt your story for a second, certainly as it relates to Roger Ailes. What I'm asking is, what is the Fox News excuse for retaliating against you if they thought there was nothing to retaliate for?
I think it's just, they stay in that mode. That is their mode. Attack, attack, attack. Irina Briganti, media relations. There's no line they won't cross when it comes to smearing anybody that they view as a threat. And they viewed me as a threat within Fox when I was there. which is why they wanted to discredit me as a future witness. And I was always a loyal employee. That's why it's all so terribly sad that Suzanne has turned out to be such a hypocrite and so truly dishonest, and come out and attacked me and attacked this lawsuit as frivolous, when she knows that if I start bringing witnesses and we go to court, it is anything but frivolous. And why me? Why is she attacking me? Why is she refusing me a proper settlement when other women were definitely taken care of and settled up with? Because I believe that there's a lot more to the story, and that's because I know that there is. And she had me check into a hotel in New York, the Warwick Hotel, under her name for 6 weeks, and she's denying all of this. She's denying that any of this happened. I mean, so there's a mountain of evidence, and she's going to find out when we go to court.
All right, and I think that everybody will find out a lot more when you guys go to court. Laurie, Luhn, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.